Welcome to Dice and Mind, a podcast hosted by Brad Brown and Jason Kaufman to explore the intersection of life, games, science, music, philosophy, and creativity through interviews with leading creatives. All are welcome in this space.
I know that you actually have been doing more like now let me no, you know what? I'm going to say this. I think you have been reading more RPG adjacent material lately than I have just because of some of the stuff. And I bring that up because you've kind of recommended more books to me that are RPG adjacent
Yeah.
than I've recommended to you. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a fascinating
Just in the past, we flux back and forth. This has
yeah,
just
the
been in the past
fascinating
few
like
months.
past like 90 days, 120
Yeah,
days, 3 to
exactly.
4 months.
Exactly. Max.
Today's episode is one of those examples,
It is.
and it's because of a series of 2 books
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that you found.
That I found one, I read it, and I thought this is so interesting. I'm going to read the other one by these guys, and it was equally interesting but different, right? They
Yeah.
really were two different books, and they were published by Media Lab, and we know them over there well enough. We know how many times have we talked about them or talked with Jeff Ashworth over the years. We know the quality they put out.
Oh yeah.
And so that was another I think factor that motivated me to try the first book of these two. But we should say we are specifically referring to two recent books by the Fishel brothers, the Game Master's Handbook of Proactive Role-Playing and the Game Master's Handbook of Collaborative Campaign Design. And so after I had read these, I was texting you and
You were
like I
texting
was
me while
calling
you were reading
over
them.
winter break. Yeah,
Yes.
while I was reading them, like there's some really interesting material here. And like I said to the guys, and we'll hear this. I think we recorded this, but reading these books, what I learned from these two books will permanently affect my GMing, regardless of game IP, etc. And
Yes.
how about I'll just plant these two seeds. I'll just plant these two seeds. Because we sort of get into this in the interview, but of course we talk a lot more about other things as well. Between these two books, so the proactive role playing guide, that one reinforced my interest in GMing games that were more sandbox than planned. The proactive term meaning from these guys, from the Fishel brothers, proactive meaning essentially providing your players with greater agency, right? So that the storytelling, the narrative becomes more collaborative of anything. And I know I'm crossing
Yes.
streams here, but the notion, kind of like the unfinished game we have of STA, of Star Trek Adventures, of I knew, and I still do for the final episode, the final session, I knew how I wanted to begin the session, and I knew where I wanted us to be at the end of the session,
Mm-hmm.
but you're like the everything else in the middle. I mean, I had done prep obviously, like I had images and I had some NPCs and whatnot, but everything else was entirely up to you or primarily up to you. And so reading this book after we had already played those first couple sessions really reinforced that for me, and that will stick with me in terms of how I GM. Like I think back when I was really getting back into RPGs starting in 2016. So I mean, man, like we're coming up on 10 years that I've been back in it, which is glorious. But I remember GMing D&D for you and Brian. And I think Brian gently but accurately was like after the session, railroad much? And was having fun with it, and guilty as
Yes, I
charged.
remember that. But
The
but it
Yeah.
was still fun.
Oh, yeah, thank you. But he was right. I mean, I hadn't played or GM'd in decades. The other book, the collaborative campaign book, the takeaway for me of that, and we talk about this in the interview, is their concept of givens. And again, this is more collaborative. Oh, go ahead.
No, 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 no. I was only going to mention this is an important thing I think to to listen to um when
In the interview.
in the interview,
Yeah,
because this was
agreed.
something that I was kind of unfamiliar with before. Um,
I think it's novel. Like I haven't I haven't come across this idea anywhere else. And so this notion of givens, and again, I'm not saying I will do it as formulaically or as well as they do and as they recommend, but that essentially during your session zero, everyone at the table agreeing upon certain things. Now those might be limits, strictures
yeah,
to what you want to play, but more importantly, asking your players, or simply knowing, is there anything you particularly want to do with your character? And again, this resonated with me, I think, because when I was GMing that little adventure for you, I mean, we've known each other how long, and we've played enough games now together that I think we both have a pretty darn good sense of like what each of us respectively really gets a kick out of as PCs.
yeah.
And so I knew for you, there were certain things that you'd really get a kick out of, right? Like I knew I needed to have action, but I also knew you'd really get a kick out of a session that was really cerebral and literally put you in the captain's chair, right? And so the Fishel brothers write about givens of just really putting that all out on the table for the party to think about before you dive into the game. And I just found both of those ideas very provocative.
I think it's a way of I what's interesting is it's I don't know the best way to put this. Uh, these are things that if you've led a game, they've probably maybe they haven't, but in some cases, I think for many, if you're very creative and all that, they've crossed your mind, but you haven't
Yeah.
really like thought too deeply about them.
Right.
So for them to
Yeah.
put them on paper and everything
Yeah.
like that, and allow you to be like introspective as a
Right.
gamer or
And
as a
intentional.
yeah, as a
Yeah.
game leader, whether it's a DM,
Right.
GM, whatever you want to call
Yep.
yourself, as a game leader,
A
um,
referee.
a referee.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a
There
good
you go.
way of putting it.
Well, what a traveler, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
So
so this discussion is fun. The Fischel brothers are really dynamic. They're both, as you would expect of a good set of brothers, different people. And it's really neat, I think, to both of us that they have worked so closely together and ostensibly enjoy doing so. So there's a lot in this interview.
yeah, I think the whole brother dynamic is just so cool. So I think it was I think even hearing that part of the discussion, but we'll leave. Well, I'm not going to say anymore. Let's leave that for the interview.
Jonah and Tristan Fishel are the authors of the Game Master's Handbook of Proactive Role-Playing and the Game Master's Handbook of Collaborative Campaign Design. Jonah Fishel has been playing TTRPGs for nearly 20 years and has game mastered far more than his fair share of campaigns. Away from the gaming table, Jonah is a learning differences tutor. He lives in Charlottesville, Virginia with his wife, daughter, and dog. For some reason, Jonah has a degree in storytelling. Tristan Fishel is an author and RPG writer living in Newport News, Virginia. Tristan has written several adventures, rules expansions, and other content for both 5e and a few of his other favorite systems. In his spare time, Tristan enjoys running home games for his friends, writing fiction, and serving as a devoted caretaker to his beloved cat, Cupcake. All right, well, Jonah and Tristan, thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure to meet you guys.
Thanks for having
Thank you
us.
so much,
Yeah.
Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, so like we were chatting, like I was saying right before we clicked record, I encountered this past December over my winter break your Game Master's Handbook for Proactive Role Playing and your Game Master's Handbook for Collaborative Campaign Design. And I was I was fairly taken by both of them, and I don't think it's an overstatement to say I really got hooked on the proactive role-playing book so much so that like as I was finishing reading that one, I picked up the campaign guide and just read them front to back in succession, thinking this is really, really cool. And it surprised me how divergent those two titles are. Like there was no reason for me to have another belief about this, but I thought, okay, so the second book is probably going to be sort of akin to the first book. And it kind of was, but they're actually very, very different books. And I thoroughly enjoyed both of them. We'll get into them, but Brad and I have been wondering first, like, I know you say a little bit about this in the books, but what brought you to these books? Like, where did
Yeah.
you guys come from to pitch? Like we've talked with Jeff Ashworth a couple times over the years, and we know he's a great,
Lucky.
really, really
Nice.
creative guy.
Yeah.
I mean, really, he was one of our very first guests actually on the podcast.
I saw
But
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we were
What a
really
get.
lucky. Yeah, seriously, and we didn't even really realize that until like he's just became super prolific. But like, I mean, did you guys just like have this idea and then pitch it and voila? How did this all happen?
I mean, kind of, yeah. Well, so it was during COVID, and
Hmm.
both of us were playing and running a lot of games at the time.
Hmm.
So Tristan, what were you up to
Eight a
at your
week.
peak there? 8 a week,
8 a week.
Jesus. I
Yeah.
mean,
Wait,
yeah.
playing or
So
GMing?
Uh, a mix.
Oh
I
wow.
I was GMing four and playing in four
Oh my
because
God.
it was COVID and I was a student and everything was shut down. So I was just like,
yeah, yeah. So it was a time when we were thinking about it a lot. But we also were both going to do NaNoWriMo. And so, or at least we've been sort of telling each other, we're kind of gassing each other up that we were going to try NaNoWriMo.
Nice.
And so when November rolled around and I had no ideas for a novel, I was like, well, how about this instead? We're both running a ton of games. Let's let's put something together, put a little guidebook together because we have kind of a similar style that has just kind of emerged over a long time playing games. We've been playing in each other's games at that point for 15 years, 12 years, something like that. And now it's been longer. And so we had this kind of style of play, this kind of philosophy of well, we'll get into it, but we had this idea. And so we wrote basically for each other and we kind of split up
Hmm.
the topics and it was this kind of big sprawling Google Doc of all these ideas that were, connected and hyperlinked together.
Hmm.
And so we made it with that in mind. And then I was feeling sort of industrious at the time, and I was trying to run some games for money, basically on startplaying.games had just come out. And I was like,
Nice.
well, maybe we could sell this, right? Let's do like an ebook or something.
Hmm.
So we took another pass at it, another pass and another pass, and kind of refined it down to an actual manuscript. And so the plan was, we'll sell this as an ebook for $4 or $5,
Hmm.
or we'll like maybe give it free to get people in the games that I'm trying to run because I was trying to charge, a couple bucks a game
Hmm.
and just make some income that way. But the problem was we really needed an editor. And it turns out, as you know, I'm sure, an editor is a magical thing. They can really improve the quality of what you're working on. And so we were trying to hire an editor. And so I
Wow.
was just DMing people basically. And so I was going on forums, I was going on Reddit saying like, hey, I know that you published this book. Any advice on editors? And also sort of what was your experience just
Yeah.
like self-publishing this thing and I was just looking for basically business advice. And so I talked to Mike Shea, Sly Flourish, Lazy DM, and I tried to talk to Justin Alexander. And later, actually, we did succeed in getting Justin Alexander on the phone, which is very cool. But at the time, nothing. And so I DM'd this guy on Reddit who I was pretty sure was Jeff Ashworth because I was reading reviews. It was a separate thing. I was reading reviews of the Game Master's Book of Traps because I was like, I want to buy this thing. It looks great. I was reading reviews of it, and I saw someone in the comments of a review posted on Reddit, like responding to stuff with like very intimate knowledge of the book. And I just knew it was Jeff, and I hadn't never
Hmm.
met the guy before, and his username, I'm not gonna dox him, but his username made it a bit obvious. And so I just DM'd him and I was like, hey man, you published a real book and I'm trying to compare, like, do we even do print on demand or do we just do an ebook? And he was like, well, can I read it? So I just sent it to him and he was like,
Wow.
actually, not only did I write these books, I'm actually the editor at the company because that's actually was his role at the time at Topics Media.
Right.
He was the editor, and they were working on a bunch of other stuff, mostly magazines. And they said, Jeff, will you just write books about D&D because you love it?
Yeah.
And those books ended up being, I mean, those are great. The whole hardcover
Yep.
series of some of the best in the genre, I think.
Mhm.
And he said it was just like we kind of fell ass backwards into it. It was
That's
a right
amazing.
place, right time kind of thing where they were looking to publish a paperback line under that same title, but they wanted it to be different. They didn't want it to be resources. They
Mhm.
wanted it to be whatever our thing is, I guess,
More
philosophy.
like
I don't
yeah,
know.
prose.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, prose.
Yep.
Not monster stat blocks, basically. And he was like, "Well, we actually would just like to publish this. Like,
That's
let's talk."
incredible.
I consider it like it's a narrative resource, really, is what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well done,
luck, basically,
gentlemen.
is what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
well,
Yeah.
but luck and but also guts to cold call like that and just ask for feedback or insight. I mean, not everyone's one to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I got a lot of people ignoring me, of course. I would
Mhm.
ignore me. And he was just so kind to say, well, let me read it and see what I think. And the initial idea was like,
Yeah.
let me see if I can connect you to one of our editors.
Yeah, right.
And then once he read it, he was like, actually, maybe it's kind of good. So that was a blessing
He
too.
said it a little nicer than that, but yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah, not that much nicer though. Yeah. No, he's great. Respect to
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, writing a book, especially a book like that, it's a fairly bold idea. It's certainly a bold endeavor. Backing up, like prior to that November, like Jonah, you said you were thinking about a novel. Tristan, I don't know what you were thinking. Like even farther back, like the genesis of writing any of this at all. Like where does that come from?
It was an essay, basically. I had just come on. It was sort of a text message conversation between the two of us, actually, or Discord maybe,
Okay.
where I had just finished running an evil campaign where my player, the players were like, "Let's do something else."
Mhm.
Like I'm sick of this game, you know. And if you run games for a while, you know what I'm talking about. People are they decide the game is, you kind of lose your spark, basically. Let's do something totally different. Let's do an evil campaign set in the same setting
Mhm.
across the ocean. And then our next campaign can be like dealing with Fallout, which is, was a
Hmm.
cool idea. And they were so into it. They loved just like making trouble, doing mischief.
Nice.
It occurred to me that what they really liked about that was like, they were full of all these ideas of evil stuff that they wanted to do. And I was thinking, like, what is it because it's evil? And I was talking to Tristan about it, and we decided, no, it's not because it's evil, it's because they want to do stuff and they're
Mhm.
excited about going out in the world. And like when I describe, oh yeah, the plague that you guys cooked up, it like wiped out a lot of the population of the city, and they're like, yeah, they just like seeing the effect that their characters have on the world and going out and doing stuff and exploring and like taking the initiative basically
Mhm.
to do things. And I said, well, there's no reason that you have to be evil to do that.
Yep.
And Tristan pointed out, well, in fantasy, kind of. Because,
Right.
like in a lot of fantasy literature, if we want to call it that, fantasy
Mhm.
fiction, that is
Mhm.
kind of the setup: is the evil guy has a plan, and the
Yep.
heroes stop the evil guy. Um, and there's this great book that we came across later that lays out sort of more in a scholarly way. What's that book called, Tristan? The first one. I still haven't read it yet because I'm subliterate. But the he run a nanny for it, and he's a scholar, and it's the history of D&D, and it's
Emergent
the
shift?
yeah, emergent shift, emergent shift.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
one of the elements in that book that Tristan, or maybe this is actually off, maybe this was your original
This was
idea,
kind of after
and
the
not from the
fact.
emergent shift. Yeah, was like, well, the DNA of fantasy role playing games comes from a lot of basically the war games that were being played at the time, and then
Yep.
also fantasy fiction. And in fantasy fiction, like the plot is that kind of good only as a reactive
Right.
force.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
say something. You talk about this a bit, I think, at the
Yeah.
beginning of Proactive Roleplay. Because we're audio only, we're a podcast, but if you could see the video of this, everybody, as soon as you mentioned that book, Emergent Shift, I wrote it down, and Brad's already looking at Amazon.
Yeah, excellent title.
Is it the elusive shift, maybe?
The Elusive Shift by,
Yes.
I believe, John Peterson.
You got it. That's exactly it. Yep.
Okay.
I haven't read it, but I strongly recommend it. Seems good.
It's very
Um,
good.
yeah,
Excellent.
It's
yeah.
it's a
So
it's a
so that
bulky read, but it's good.
Okay. Okay.
is it.
Yeah.
MIT Press, Jason.
Yeah,
I
it's
I'm sure
I've
I've
heard
seen
of
this.
that.
I am sure I've seen this on their list. Yeah.
I think it did win an Emmy, right? So
Oh, cool.
maybe I was nominated for something, I think. I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway.
Look,
Okay.
it's a big deal.
So this is a beautiful segue then into proactive role playing. So how would you guys define like what do I like I mean I read so I have some insight, but like for our audience, how what do you two mean when you say proactive role playing?
It's tough to. I feel like you need like a lot of context. That's why we kind of think of this as like it's sort of an advanced DMing book, and we don't say that to pat ourselves on the
No,
back. It just,
agreed.
we couldn't really be bothered to give all the context to a newbie.
Hmm.
And like
Hmm.
the way that my games have been mostly played have been in that same genre of fiction where the bad guy has the evil plot and good is a reactive force. Good is a very conservative force in a lot of fiction. You're trying to preserve the current order.
Right.
And there are some exceptions, but a lot of it is like we gotta, we gotta save the kingdom,
Yep.
we gotta save the gods, we gotta save our town, the way things are, the way that we want to keep them. It's a very like stasis preserving force, and that is very fun, right? To be clear, the idea of proactive role playing is like what if instead we did it the other way around, and the protagonists are a force for change in the world and are doing things, and that's like a different style of fiction, maybe. The way it becomes like a technique at the table is rather than the GM preparing a world or a setting or a plot or an adventure and the players playing through it
Yeah.
like a choose your own adventure.
Yep.
The idea is that the players decide what the game is going to be about, and
Mm.
their characters want things and they want to go do things in the world and affect change. And the GM's job is to prepare basically the next encounter that would happen that stops them from doing that. And so you're setting up obstacles in their way as they're trying to pursue their goals, and that's where the game sort of emerges naturally from.
So this really resonated with me as a concept when I was reading this past winter. It's still winter. We're about to get snow again, but back in December, because I was so Brad and I have been playing not recently, but Brad and I have been playing Star Trek Adventures 2E, and this was like I read this. I think Brad like right after our last session. So I mean, this was back in
Yeah,
early
I think
December, right?
yes.
Right. So
Right.
yeah, we haven't played in a while, but so this was like right after, and it was very much on our game was very much on my mind because I'd been GMing just this really brief arc, and basically for Brad, it was basically a sandbox game because I mean Brad and I have been good friends for 30 plus years and so I mean we know what like what we respectively like in games like you guys are saying and so instead of making the mistake of railroading or using something published, like I know what Brad finds fun like in that IP. And so like I had my notion of this is where this session's going to start. This is where I want to get us at the end of that session as a transition. Everything else is unscripted. And so I'd been doing that and experimenting with it, and it seemed to be going pretty well. Like we were having fun. And then I read proactive role playing, and it's like, oh, so there's a term for what I've been doing, and there's improved guidance too. And
Yeah.
so now we haven't actually played since then, but I'm full of ideas for the next time, courtesy of the two of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's a thing that we discovered. Like the idea of proactive role playing is not new. It's in fact maybe
Yeah,
very old. And
yeah,
I think that a lot of people who like that style, they're doing it already. It's just sort of like the way that we like to run games, and it's not some new invention. What the book mostly is about is just sort of like a step-by-step method for actually doing it at the table.
hmm
We
hmm
just sort of
hmm
wrote down the way that we
Right.
prep for games,
The
and
flow
it
chart,
happens to
by
be
the way.
that.
It's the flow chart. No, I mean everyone should buy the book and read it. But if you want the absolute, like, I mean, I'm just gonna put that out there as my disclaimer. But the total cheat would the flow chart you put in there toward the end. Um, I was occasionally highlighting things and dog-earing things. Then I got to the flow chart, that one table, or that one figure. I'm like, okay, take all the dog ears out. This is the one. Like that is a wonderful resource to guide what you're talking about,
We
right?
have a
Like.
PDF if you want to put it in the notes. Yeah.
Yes,
I'll send
please.
you a
Yeah,
PDF.
send it to us.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
like that's
It's
all it
great
really
guidance.
is. I mean, it's a long book to get to that flow chart because there's a lot of context.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like how do we take what the players want to do next and sort of operationalize making counters out of it.
Okay, so let's pivot for a sec. Let's talk about collaborative game design. So obviously related, also your ideas, your other book, your second book, but its own thing as well. Now, I think there's a ton in your handbook for collaborative game design. Like that's to me, that one feels and I mean this in a positive way. That one to me feels slightly more formulaic. Like there's so much guidance in it because of the complexity and the abstractness of sometimes what you're writing about. But I will tell you what stuck with me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. The concept of givens. Like that I can't overstate how much that has resonated with me. Like I
This
finished
was a
reading that, the two of the books, and I'm like, if that's the only thing I take away from both books, it was totally worth the investment of time. So what do you guys mean by givens in game design?
Can I take this one? Yeah.
Please.
Um, yeah, so Givens, the idea was when you are, pitching a campaign
Mhm.
or when you're kind of coming up with one together with your players, the collaborative book was sort of all about how can you discover a story together,
Mhm. Mhm.
instead of kind of playing through one that already existed or that you had concocted. Um, and a big issue that I was running into is when we were, especially early on, during that COVID period when we were
Mhm.
running a ton of games, I kept trying to run like modules or adventures, and I was really struggling with it, and I felt really frustrated. So the idea was you take kind of the most fundamental aspects of a pitch for a game or a campaign or an adventure, a module, or whatever, and those are just kind of givens at character creation, or when you're setting up this next arc or whatever. So and
Mhm.
like every game basically incorporates givens already, right? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
if you're playing D&D, the givens are it's like fantasy world and there's
Right.
magic and there's wizards and this sort of thing. Or if you're some of them are more if you're playing like a Star Trek game or a Star Wars
Mhm.
game, a lot of the
Mhm.
setting things are kind of given. Um, and the kind of other inspiration for that was we played a game of John Harper's Blades in the Dark that Jonah was running, and
uh,
that had a lot, yeah, fantastic game.
yeah.
That had a lot of inspiration for the proactive book, but I had also because Jonah ran and I played in that, and as a player, I really really liked the specific givens that game uses, and it'll put it like on the character sheet. The stuff about the setting is very evocative, and to a certain extent, like the limits that games set or that a campaign set it just makes it much easier to be creative and to come up
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
ideas, than sort of this like terrifying giant empty expanse.
Right.
So long-winded answer, but that's
Mhm.
that's the idea behind givens.
No, let me switch gears for a minute, if you don't mind, just because there's just something I find fascinating, and that is that, we've done our fair share of interviews over the 5 years that we've been doing the
Turns out.
podcast. And um I just find it interesting that it's two brothers that have come together that have done this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And just sitting here now, I have a couple siblings, um and I love them. But we are in such diverse, like, we work in such diverse different areas that I've never thought about like collaborating on anything. Now Jason and his brother are like
We're
brothers, and
we're
we
we're
collaborate
very yeah, and we're very close. But
close.
like, I loved the. I'm glad you brought this up, right? Because like, I love the gentle ribbing of each
Yeah.
other. But if I were to write with my brother, A, I don't know how that would work, and B,
Yeah.
I don't know how he would be so gentle.
Yeah, it's just I find it fascinating. So
Well, you should
you
see
know,
the first
The editor
draft.
smoothed it
yeah,
over. I was about to say,
yeah.
yeah.
You gave us a little bit of behind the scenes, Jonah, when you were talking about like the Google Doc and kind of going back and forth. But you know, what was it like taking, like, obviously a long-standing, I'm air quoting here, personal relationship, and now translating that into, in effect, a professional one, because now you're actually publishing a book.
And let me interject, sorry, with a relevant question too, a datum here. What's the age difference between the two of you guys?
Oh yeah, good point.
9 years.
9 years,
Okay,
going on 10.
so
Yeah, so
that could make
big,
it a
big
little
age
better.
gap.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
there we do have a middle brother also.
But you
There's a
wrote him
third
out.
Fishel. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
we deleted all his
he's
pages.
kind of the smart, cool, sporty one, you know. He works on Wall Street. He's
Oh,
he actually he played D&D with us growing up, and his role was always uh the wild card, you know.
Okay.
nice. Okay.
We're playing it. He's always the one who's like, I kill the mayor. That style of play, and he's I mean, great guy, a lot of fun to be around. Just doesn't really care for this kind of, for the hobby.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So the age difference between us, I don't know. Maybe we're in very different stages of life too. Um, Tristan is a workhorse. I mean, my man writes 10,000 words a day, feels like, because he's doing a lot of other freelancing stuff too. Um, writing adventures and he's
Excellent.
involved in Kickstarter projects, some of which I can't mention. But
Neat.
yeah, I think you'll be seeing his name a lot in
Excellent.
the in the coming years.
Excellent.
So he was already doing that. He was already freelancing when we did the book for the first time. One of the reasons that we had the idea to do like a self-published thing, we saw this whole ecosystem of like small publishers with cool ideas, like getting kickstarted and putting together a campaign setting or monsters or subclasses, this kind of like sub economy of D&D that can only exist on the internet. So as far as like working with each other, I don't know, like we'd have long Discord conversations, we would take notes, and then we just kind of split up topics that we're going to write. And a lot of the first book was like, I'll write this chapter and then you write this one, and I'll write this one, you write this one.
Mhm.
And then the second book is way more kind of interleaved, where we are splitting up subsections.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and it's I don't know. Tristan would usually be done right away, and then I would sort of turn it in the last minute, and then we read each other's drafts and we do edits and leave comments. And some of those comments became the footnotes that you see in the book, the kind of responses
Yeah,
to each
yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Because we do
That's
actually have very
cool.
different styles of, as similar as we are in terms of our interests. We're very different, I think, in terms of personality and even just how we run the games. So we're into kind of the same stuff and we read the same books. But there's not that many similarities in our games really, aside from that. And so that's a huge advantage, actually, I think, for
Yeah.
us. Not only is it way easier to write a book when you're only writing half of a book, or really in my case, we're kind of writing a third of a book, and Tristan's writing two-thirds of a book. That certainly makes it easier. But also just like having someone like to bounce ideas off of. So if I say something really stupid, Tristan's like, that shouldn't go. Like, we don't need that in the book. That's a huge advantage, right? That never makes it to the first draft. I don't even bother writing it, reading each other's work, bouncing ideas off of each other, especially in something so collaborative as this hobby. There's not really anything that I think is really improved by doing it alone.
Yeah.
So I think it's a big
Yeah.
advantage for
That's
us.
a great point. What games so you've mentioned a couple different games, just out of curiosity, you know, I want to get back. I want to ask a question about playing style, but this one was at the top of my list was, what's your go-to game if you're going to
Yeah.
like sit down and say, okay,
What do you guys
I
like to
need
play?
I need to fire something up right now
Mm.
to play. What's it going to be?
13th Age, second edition for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to play, yeah, kind of character driven, high fantasy. Yeah, that's for me. That's
Okay.
that's the itch that I want to scratch. And yeah, I like a nice wilderness kind of dungeon crawl. I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
but that's my favorite system mechanically for doing that kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay.
For me these days, I think it's probably Blades in the Dark. Um, for a very long time, I think like a lot of people, it was fifth edition.
Hmm.
But I run a lot of kind of like political, very social, lots of role-playing games. especially my usual group of players really, really likes that. And so Blades
Nice.
works really well for me for that. And I can, run a game of it basically without prepping anything, which I really like.
Oh, wow.
That's really
You're
Um,
cool.
also you're a very big improviser too,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm way more of a planner. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Powered by Apocalypse allows you to do that too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, Blades, I think, has its own Forged in the Dark thing, but it's very, very close to Powered by the
Isn't it? Isn't
Apocalypse.
it? Or okay, maybe I'm wrong. I thought maybe it kind of
Um,
had some of the DNA in it, but maybe I
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's
it
it's
totally
it's
does.
basically Powered by the
does it.
Apocalypse. Yeah.
Everything
I
but
don't
the
know if
dice
that's heresy for
mechanic.
me to say, but yeah,
Yeah.
everything but the
Yeah,
core roll is
But
yeah.
you know the game. We like Jason said,
We have a
we're so
very
busy
long
doing
list
this.
of games we want to play.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
yes,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I
and
get it.
just don't get a chance. My stacks over here are stacked full of
Yeah.
books that need to
Well,
be cracked open.
and I think another thing that I think is nice about that I enjoy about your two books, hopefully and counting, is that so Brad and I are really and increasingly intrigued by the notion of RPG as lit, right? And
Yeah.
reading them for the sake of like we've both invested in a Kickstarter, right? I've been keen on Mongoose's upcoming Pioneer since we first found out about it long before the Kickstarter. And I'd love to play, but I just want to read the game material. And a lot of games increasingly are like that these days. And one of the things I liked about your two books is obviously they're books. They're meant to be read, but they're not merely instruction manuals. Like I got a kick out of, especially in proactive role playing, but both of them, reading, it's like, oh yeah, this is interesting. This makes for neat gameplay. This gives me ideas. Like it fits to me, they both fit that lit vibe very nicely.
I thought you were about to talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl. That was where I predicted that was going. But yeah, 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 that too. I mean, I've read way more games than I'll probably ever play,
Yeah.
which is sort of a sad thing. And look, like the technology is advancing. We were at Gen Con this year,
Hmm.
and there are people putting out these gorgeous hardcover, full
Oh
art,
yeah.
like the most beautiful books you've ever seen. And you read
Yeah.
them, and the game inside is so cool. And I'm thinking about like MythWorks doing, what was it called? Slug Blasters? Is that
Slug
what it's called?
Blaster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the best book ever produced.
Wow.
Yeah, and it makes me want to play it so bad. And will I ever? Hopefully someday.
Yeah.
What'd you guys? So just talking about Gen Con real quick. So what'd you think? When you went,
We had a good time. It was our
did
first
you
time.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, we were hoping to eventually, we're hoping to appear in a professional capacity
Hmm.
Yeah.
there
Hmm.
and run some stuff and run some panels and that sort of thing. But we just had never been. So yeah, we got an Airbnb in the city and just did Gen Con the sort of the proper
Nice.
way. It was a blur. We had a great
It was
time.
a good time. Yeah, it was
Yeah, we
busy.
played some great games. Yeah, and we kind of only had one bad game, really. I mean, everything was a
Wow.
blast. And we read a bunch of cool stuff. I got to play
Yeah.
the Root RPG, which I've been looking forward to a lot. Haven't played since, but I would like to. That'd be cool. We played a cool deck builder that is coming out on Kickstarter very soon. Race to
Neat.
Kepler, shout out. I'm very excited about that too, because we did a lot of board gaming there too.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was such a good time. There's like always, 10 things to do at a time and you're kind of trying to pick. Uh, so it's a little overwhelming. But
Yeah.
Beyond role playing,
I would
are
imagine.
you both board gamers as well, or is that just more like was that just more of a Gen Con type of thing, or
Oh yeah, when I can.
yeah?
Yeah,
Any
over this winter break, how many games of Root did we play?
a lot.
15, 20? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, we
Wow.
kind of get it on a kick and we just hit one game over and over and over again.
When we have the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
what is your like if you were to like pick favorite of all time, independent of time, anything like that from a board game perspective, what would it be?
Oh.
Favorite game.
Sidereal Confluence.
I think
I
Spirit Island
think.
for me.
Oh, Spirit
Okay.
Island. Never mind. I changed my answer. Spirit
Okay.
Island. Yeah.
I've looked at that one multiple times.
I
I
don't know
have yet to
anything
pick it
about
up.
it.
It's a good
So,
one. Yeah.
is
Oh,
that
it's great. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And it's an unbelievable mix of sort of flavor and really, really crunchy mechanics. It is collaborative too, which can be like it depends on your group, I think.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, it's a great time. And it's you can play a game if you know what you're doing in 2 hours, and it can be very difficult as well. So we played at Gen Con. We actually got a game of Spirit Island in with the best player I've ever seen, who was not, I mean, it's hard to quarterback in Spirit Island because there's so much going on. There's so many little fiddly bits to keep track of that you need to be some kind of super genius to actually just run everyone else's spirit for them. But he kind of carried us through that game, and I still had a great time. It was the hardest difficulty that I've ever played on, and we won by a hair, and it was great.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
What was the most complex, just out of curiosity? I'm going to add, this is a two-parter. Most complex or crunchy board game and RPG game that you both have experienced, You may have liked it, you may not have. I'm just curious.
Crunchiest board
I
game.
like the crunch. The board game is probably for me Spirit Island. There's just like every card does something different.
If you
So
have
it's
like
very
all
asymmetric.
because there's all these expansions and stuff you can get with all of those, probably that. Or I don't know, there's some games that you brought home, from like college or something. I forget what they were. It was like Mage Knight or something like that.
Oh, Mage Knight's pretty.
Or
That's pretty complicated.
yeah,
Yeah.
Gloomhaven had a lot of parts. I don't remember it being too crazy.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, but the core loop of Gloomhaven is like pick two cards and then like do fantasy stuff. Spirit Island is very asymmetric. Like every spirit really, not only do they have different cards to start with, but they all interact with the board in different ways. They all have different keywords. They all interact with each other in different ways. There's this like suit making kind of mini game with elements on top of everything. Yeah, very complicated. RPG is probably Pathfinder second edition. Or GURPS,
Thought so.
maybe. If you get really into GURPS and you get
That's
like 5
interesting.
books on the table, maybe
Yeah.
it's that. Yeah.
That's another one on our shelves we've yet to play
Yes,
with.
yes. I love the idea. I love the idea of GURPS. I love the idea of it. I just haven't had the time. I have one more question, Jason. I'll pass it back to
Yeah.
you just have to wrap up. So obviously not asking anything that you can't answer, but you've got 2 books down. Have you got anything on the docket that you're thinking about doing again or doing together going forward? Anything from a 3rd or 4th book perspective you're looking at? Sequels?
My answer is very short.
Yeah.
Tristan's answer will be long, depending on how much he can share.
Yeah.
From my perspective, no, I'm out of ideas. I got nothing left. And but we also thought we were out of ideas before the Orange book too, the second book.
They are short.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we changed the title so many times. The original title was Emergent Campaign Design. This idea that the story of a game
Oh, I like that.
arises in
really cool.
hindsight. Like the plot of a game comes when you look back on all the sessions you've had,
Yeah.
and you don't really have a plot that you're delivering in the moment. You're just kind of stringing encounters together to challenge the characters on their way to pursuing a goal. And then when you look back, you're like, oh, it turns out our game is about love and the power of hope in a dark world and that sort of thing. And then that sort of requires too much context to make sense on a shelf. And so we were advised to go to collaborative campaign design. So we didn't have an idea for a second book. We had to sit down and be like, well, what else do we do? Because they asked us to write a second one.
Nice.
Okay.
And we
Nice.
said, well, what else do we do that we could just write about? And if there's someone who's having trouble with their flow for planning a game or planning a campaign, how can we do that? And but now, I don't know. That's it. So the proactive book is about designing encounters, basically, at its core. And the campaign book is about designing campaigns. That's kind of it. Those are the 2 fundamental units, I think, of running a game. Other than like if you want to like a conversation, and I'm not sure I have anything to say about that. So at the moment, nothing comes to mind. But I'm not involved in all these other side projects that Tristan is.
Tristan, before you answer too, I know because you both have like a site you're working on too. So
Yeah, we're gonna get there. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted.
I haven't forgotten.
Hit on that. Perfect. Yeah. Tristan,
Yeah.
anything that you've thought about that you thought maybe you you both want to work on, or I know, and anything you can talk about,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah. We've talked about third book ideas. So like there's some floating around, but there's nothing that we don't want to make one just for the sake of making one,
Right.
Right.
unless we feel
Right.
like we actually have something to say. So for now, no. There is another book in that series coming out that's not written by us.
Got it.
Um,
Hmm.
I don't know many of the details about it though. I think it's listed on Amazon. But we're working on a bunch of stuff together. It's all pretty different. Um, but it's mostly materials to make that type of stuff easier, and we'll
Nice.
uh, you know, it's floating around. It's getting there.
Okay.
The
Okay.
sensors kick in. Good.
And then, we
Yeah.
we both do like little side gigs here and then. And I do a lot of freelance stuff. So right now, uh I think it's fine if I talk about it but I'm doing some work for the Cosmere RPG.
Excellent.
Um they've got some stuff
Excellent.
coming out soon for the Mistborn
Yeah,
supplements.
I've been waiting for
Yeah.
Mistborn. So we've had Merrick on, we've had Ross on.
Yeah.
They just seems like the nicest group of people
Oh
working
Yeah.
yeah,
around.
absolutely. I haven't like talked to a lot of the because it's mostly email. Um, but I have, emailed a bunch of people and I've been,
Very
working
cool.
we're working on some stuff for Mistborn right now.
That's so cool.
Not like the system itself, but for like
Yeah, yeah.
supplementary materials and stuff like that. And that's been
Talk
great. So
about
that's most
gorgeous
of what I'm
books
working on.
too.
Oh
Oh
man,
my
Yeah.
their
God.
yeah,
Oh my
their
God.
art is
Like
unreal.
Mistborn I plan to buy just to read
It's
through. I
basically an
just
art
want to
book.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
the
seriously.
It's
Yeah.
gorgeous, yeah.
I
And
will.
they have like the gold like the gold
Oh,
leaf on the side of the book.
Oh,
oh my.
they're putting
Hmm.
gilded
Yeah,
edges on
they're
it and
Yeah.
everything. And
so nice. Yeah.
It's amazing.
wow.
There has never been a more affordable or more expensive time to get into RPGs.
Yes.
It really depends on what you go after, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, so to
I should
oh
mention that
yeah,
just I
please.
forgot, but every once in a while, the nice folks over at Topics Media Lab who publish the Game Master
Yeah.
series will ask us to collaborate on something. So we worked on
Oh,
Legendary
cool.
Locations, and
Nice.
we worked
Yeah, and the
on
hardcover
Instant Towns and
series.
Cities.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
Oh.
did some. Yeah, so if
Very
they
good.
ask us to do that again, we'll
Yeah.
definitely say
Such a
yes.
good
I
lineup.
don't know if they have anything planned, but every
Yeah.
once in a while they'll
Yeah.
say, "Hey, we need someone to write,
Yeah.
a couple thousand words for this book," and they
Nice.
tend to ask authors who've already worked with them in the past. So we're on that
Yeah.
Outstanding.
list, which is lucky for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
like you
that's
said, that is
cool.
such a good like when we had Jeff on the first time, I think his first one had just come out recently. And like
Yeah.
Oh.
now, like they are churning out, like you said, Jonah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there's like they're kind of the best in the business right now, and
Yeah.
they're beautifully produced. And
Yes.
there's this whole collection now. I mean, talk about a rabbit hole. And I love this about everything that Media Lab or Topics puts out. They're all affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a to me that's a real standout in the space these days, right? They could
Yeah.
charge literally twice as much for those books and they don't. And so
Well,
getting
way to
into that.
advertise that. Way to
Well,
advertise it.
Well, but
but yeah,
they've got the
because more
short
people can buy.
version at Five Below, right? They'll even sell like a pared down version for a
Oh, I
couple
didn't know
bucks at
that.
Five Below. Yeah, you can
Okay.
Yeah.
get the of the encounters book. There's a lot of encounters in there. You can get a version that's only 30 encounters at Five Below. It's paperback for cheap.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Wow.
I
Yeah.
just think it's neat.
As
So
far as I
more
Yeah.
can
people
tell, they're
should
kind
know.
of only at Five Below because I don't think I found them
Yeah, it's a
online,
kind of
but
exclusive deal.
yeah.
My
Wow.
father really likes that and the dollar store and some of the others. I've been going to a lot of those lately. I will keep my eyes
Yeah,
open.
tell
I
them to
had no
keep an eye
idea.
out. Yeah.
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 Okay, so to close this out, before we clicked record, you guys were telling us about kind of sort of your actual play. Tell us what that's about.
Right. So we wrote the book without a plan, the first book.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we put a little website together because we thought people might want to find the book, and
Yep,
hopefully they
yep.
wanted to buy the book. And there was a way to get in touch with us, and we started getting inquiries, like a lot of inquiries,
Hmm.
people saying, "How do I do this in my game?"
Yeah.
and they'd say, well, this is what's happening, and these are the characters, and we'd ask kind of questions like, oh, what's going on? What level is everybody? What's the vibe? And just kind of giving advice, basically, like, oh, you know what you should do is you should have that the missing person that your fighter's looking for. They've actually been captured by bandits, and they're being forced to work in this mine with this other item that this other character is in. There's a lot of ways you can, like, on a very tactical level, bring everybody's goals together to
Hmm.
keep the party kind of moving in the same direction. And it's a lot of kind of little design tweaks you can do. So we were answering, fielding a fair number of those emails, a couple a week probably.
Hmm.
Um, while we, especially when the book first came out and
Yeah.
people were reading it for the first time. And so we put together a forum basically where people who read the book come and talk about their games. And so they are talking to each other about their games, and we're kind of offering advice that people ask. And the forum has grown quite a bit. There was this video that Ginny D, this YouTuber, put
Hmm.
together about the
Hmm.
proactive role playing book. And since
I
that
was
video
wondering how
came
you
out,
got her for a
yeah.
forward. Nice.
Well, yeah, they asked nicely. I mean, that's the great thing about a traditional publisher is that
Yep.
Jeff Ashworth can just call her.
Yeah.
Say,
Yep.
hey,
Yep.
Yeah.
would you
Yeah.
like to read this book?
That is cool.
Yeah, and they had a couple names they were kicking around, and she ended up liking the book, and so she decided to do it, which is great. And which is very cool of her. She wanted to read it first.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and so she ended up making the video about it, which we had nothing to do with. She actually emailed us 3 days before the video came out and was like, "Hey, I made this video about your book and it's coming out, and is that okay?" And we're like, "Yeah, my God, of course, thank you." So there's no financial relationship there at all, which
Yeah.
she makes very clear in her video. And so since then, basically, the forum has grown a lot, and so we have
Neat.
people posting about their games and offering advice, and it's pretty honestly hands off for us in a lot of ways, but we're in
Oh.
there most days. And so there's a couple things that we're doing moving forward in that group, and one of them is running games. So running weekly games at least. And I think you're going to run one. The plan is to run recurring games where um, the most common questions that we get are answered, and the common questions are like, how do I get started with this? How do I like
Yeah.
get my group
Oh,
doing this for the
that's
first
cool.
time?
Absolutely.
And also like the setup of a goal-driven game is the hard part. And then once it gets rolling, it kind of just rolls. Because once the characters get into it and they'll just tell you what they're going to do next, then you just plan on that. But before that, before the game is all set up, that's the hard part. And so people were asking for demonstrations of that. So we're doing periodic demonstrations, and now we're like, all right, we're just going to make it a regular thing. We're going to get together with our community members here and just like run games. And so we'll run some setups, and we'll run some, we call it session -1 because it happens before session 0. We talk about that in the campaign book. We're going to run a bunch of those. Tristan is writing these proactive packets as well that will be there. You want to talk about those, Tristan?
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So those kind of arose out of the frustration I was talking about earlier with like adventure modules and
Hmm.
especially with longer campaigns. So the idea is to kind of make good on the promise of those, like shorten prep time and have these
Right.
very cool
Right.
scenarios and these really cool encounters, and kind of eliminate a lot of the work and creative burden of that. Um, but still be able to run proactive or emergent games with them. So they're sort of bundles of resources that are linked by a theme, so they don't have like a specific plot
Yep.
outlined or anything like that. It's more so like a bunch of resources that are we try to make them as easy to organize and kind of structure into a game as you play.
Very, very
He's
cool.
being humble. Let me take a crack at it. Tristan has solved the problem of like using published materials in a game that you want to be proactive, and he's done it by writing encounters that are kind of interesting. I'm not involved in writing these. Right? So he just writes them, creating encounters that are like interesting and social and combat and stealth encounters and stuff, and then he groups them in this table at the beginning of the packet by goal. And so you think, what do
Oh,
your players
cool.
want? And like, are they have a goal that's around destroying something or targeting something, and then
Huh.
you can figure out like which encounters from the packet you can run. And
Yeah,
because they all use the
very
same, like
cool.
a common stat block, and common maps and stuff, there's a lot of different configurations you can get. You just look at like, well, what would my group do? They are looking for a missing person, so I could run this encounter, or this encounter, and then the order I want. And he has advice in there about how to structure it and sequence it and stuff.
Wow.
It's very cool, and I'm gonna use all of them. Yeah. So that's what the group is. So basically, like if you want to learn how to run proactive games, either by seeing it done or participating in one or just reading more about it, that's where to go. We got a bunch of resources. This is all
That
free, by the
does
way.
remind me. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. That does remind me of something that I think is kind of important, which is the adventure that we put at the end of the proactive book, Pine Hollow. Um, we Maybe I
I
shouldn't
don't
say
like
that.
it.
We weren't. I was gonna say we weren't quite satisfied with it.
Well, we
Um,
had to cut so much. We had to cut so
we
much of
had to
it.
keep
Yeah.
to the page count. I think we needed to
Fair.
think about it for a little longer. But point being, we redid it, and we kind of tried to structure. It was one of the first ones we did, so I think that we might need to go back to it again someday and reformat some stuff. But the basic idea is we remade it kind of with that chart, where it's this big list of not big list, but there's like factions and NPCs and various, useful tables and tidbits. And then the bulk of it is these lists of encounters organized by goal. And a lot of it is, worksheet
Really
style, so you
clever.
can print it out and literally move the encounters around in your binder or whatever.
Oh,
So
that
if,
is
if anyone
cool.
did read the
Really cool.
book and they haven't run the adventure they did and they want something that it's designed to make it as easy as possible to start a proactive game.
Awesome.
And I think it's
Yeah.
it's definitely an
That's what
improvement
you
on
want
the
to
one in the
run.
book,
Yeah.
We got other resources. We got character
and
sheets,
it's
and
free.
we got
Nice.
Notion templates. We got some videos in there. Just trying to make it as easy to try this, for the first time as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
Really cool. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening. It's a
Thank
real
Yeah.
you.
pleasure.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having it. I
us.
love talking about this stuff, the philosophy of gaming and all that. Elusive Shift. I'm gonna read it.
We will check it out too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me borrow your copy then, dude. Send it to me. I want to buy it. I'll read yours.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, very much.
Love talking about it. And to be honest with you, just hearing them talk about like the different games and um fascinating what the go-to games were for them.
Yeah, very divergent.
And so different.
Mm-hmm.
And interest and just listening to the dynamic between brothers and everything like
Yeah,
that. I
funny.
just you know, I don't know. It would be interesting. I haven't ever gamed with my siblings, um, let alone like worked with my siblings. I think they'd all want to kill me if they tried that.
Yeah.
So,
I gamed with my brother, I mean, back like when we were in high school and a little bit into college and Scott game mastered, but I don't think we've done it since then.
what was your brother's character's name? You were Monza Ked. I remember that.
And the worst thing is I can see his sheets, and I can't think of his name.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
have to
I
come
can't
back
think
to
of
it.
his PC. Yeah, love to
But
ask.
this is a good segue to head over to Loon Cafe.
All right, let's go.
So we were talking. So last year, so some of my favorite like traditionally I'm like a space guy when it comes to
Yep,
sci-fi and
yep.
and fiction reading.
But
But there is a limited set of books that I love to read. And last year, Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman came out with the Dragonlance Chronicles in a limited edition. I'm showing this so
oh,
people can't
that's
see
good
it,
looking.
but it's literally like an omnibus. It is um all three chronicles. Um so Dragons of an Autumn Twilight, Winter Night, and Spring Dawning, the trilogy,
Yep,
all in one book
yep.
form. So um I read it again. Last time I read it, I want to say, or let me rephrase it. The first time I read it, I want to say I was like eighth grade, ninth grade,
Okay.
right in that range. So late 80s, mid
Yep.
mid mid to late 80s. Well, recently I've been watching this because
Oh,
I follow Margaret Weiss. They came out with
Brad's reaching for another thing.
the follow-up trilogy, which is the Dragonlance
Oh, look at
Legends
that.
trilogy, which is Time of the Twins, War of the Twins, and Test of the Twins. So that was like the
Mhm.
second trilogy that came out. Um, and I got this um 2 weeks ago.
Ooh,
And I didn't start it right away because I was finishing something else.
yep.
And then I wanted a better reading light so that I could lay
Okay.
down at night and read and not watch videos or do things that were a little more like intellectually or stimulating, and
Yeah.
reading will relax me. So I got
Hmm.
that. So this has been what I have been working on through.
Nice.
Um and both of these trilogies, I'm not a huge Forgotten Realms person by any stretch or
Uh-huh.
anything.
Uh-huh.
Um but Dragonlance, those two trilogies, and then a smattering of books that had came out um after that, before so many started coming out, I couldn't keep up. And then I think girls were introduced into my life, and then I just kind of lost interest. But for at least a short period of time. But
Yes.
um,
His late
those two,
teens to his early 40s. No,
pretty
go on.
much, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, those two trilogies had a very, very profound effect on my interest in high fantasy, even to this
Okay.
day. And I find that even when I game or DM
Are
in
you
the high
reverting to
fantasy,
those?
I use material from
Oh, that's neat.
these two series, because I just like Crit. I like the whole Dragonlance world. Um,
Interesting.
so um,
And those have never been that world has never been imported into an RPG?
oh yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah, it
yes.
has.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tells you how little I know.
I want to say there was a third edition Dragonlance. I think I have it. Yeah, I
Okay.
think there's a third edition resource book, and then there is a new fifth edition
Oh,
um
okay. D&D.
D&D fifth
Yep.
edition resource book for Dragonlance, and I have that.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
mostly for uh the the lit as RPG component. Um Not necessarily because I thought we would play in it, but um mostly because I wanted to be able to read it. Because anything Dragonlance, I have a
So,
bit of a
okay,
thing
so
with.
so that's interesting because this has been building for me very slowly, but I found my thoughts again, my interest to play again very slowly, vacillating back to some fantasy.
Hmm.
And it's been slow in coming, but I'm in an yeah, I'm in an STA game right now, over Discord, and shout out to Michael Dismuke. It's really entertaining. It's really neat. It's really pushing me in great ways as a player and a little bit as a writer of all things. But that's really scratching an itch.
Yeah.
And and I find myself thinking, okay, between playing and between writing, I'm getting a lot of sci-fi these days. And I'm sort of tempted to play some fantasy or high fantasy if I don't have to GM, but nothing was sitting with me. But listening to you talk about Dragonlance and learning that there's like a 5e supplement, etc., etc. Um, as an alternative to Midnight or Midnight, I mean either one, but I just slowly find my thoughts drifting back toward it could just be fun to play a little fantasy. Like we go back and forth, but
I um I have thought, we've midnight is on the docket for us. It's sitting right there by
yep,
next to my chair.
yep.
Um, it's on the docket for us to play.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I'll be honest with you, where I live now, I'm back in the home where I played my
Oh, that's
first
interesting.
my first little dashes and touches of Dungeons and Dragons, the original red box, the basic edition,
Uh-huh.
which was, had a little solo adventure and all of that.
That's cool.
And um so ultimately, um I didn't know if it was just more being sentimental or the nostalgia of it, but between reading Dragonlance Legends, I've actually had the 2024 edition of the Player's Handbook out, just reading through it.
Uh-huh.
Um, not
Funny.
not anticipating necessarily to play it, but reading through it just from like a nostalgia perspective. Um,
Gee. See, maybe I
and
need to look up the maybe I need to look into the Dragonlance 5 ebook, yeah, for some lit.
the Dragon, well, it's ironic is I'm looking at the Dragonlance 5e, it's called I can tell you because it was just up, of course. Um, where is it? I literally just had it on my screen because it's normally a $40 book, but there's a coupon price, so it's $28.
Oh,
Um,
we'll have to talk
yeah, it's called
offline.
Shadow of the
Shadow of the
Dragon.
Dragon Queen.
Yeah,
And
and
that's an adventure book.
it
Okay.
introduces the setting to fifth edition. Um, but it has like a map of the whole continent. It's literally the resource book
Oh, okay.
for Dragonlance. Um,
Oh, I see. Okay.
and so, you know,
All right. Well, we'll have to talk about that. We'll
it's
have to
it's
talk about that
interesting.
offline. Yeah, I'm curious.
I actually at some point back even bought the Warriors of Kryn board game because you can use that along with that adventure and do some pretty cool stuff in creating like some like Dragonlance gaming. Um,
Intriguing.
and I thought, oh, maybe at some point down the road, um, I might I might do that, you
Huh.
know. But
Yeah, I'd be
that's
game.
but that's
Interesting.
it's one of those things. That's one of those things where we would need to get together. Um,
Hmm.
that's something where we would actually have to play in person.
And
Um,
I just found the coupon.
yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay.
So
Intriguing.
we'll talk. Well, that's something to
We'll talk
talk about over
more.
the next week. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. There you have it, everybody. Lots of sci-fi, maybe a return to some fantasy. Certainly some proactive collaboration and givens. All right, you all know the deal. Be well, stay well. We will see you in a couple weeks.